So, welcome to another edition of the GamblingCare.ie podcast. Today we have Tim from Cuan Mhuire. He's gladly agreed to come on and speak with us. First of all, Tim, you're welcome. Do you want to, start off by telling us what you do in Cuan Mhuire?
Yes, thanks for having me. I'm working with gamblers in Cuan Mhuire. I came in to do a programme myself 9 years ago. And I suppose when I came into Cuan Mhuire, there was very little talked about gambling. And when I finished the programme, I done a bit of work on myself and I decided to kind of take the gambling as best I could to another level through my experience of doing a program there, not talking about gambling. So I'm working with gamblers ever since that, and for me, it's a great job. I help people in Cuan Mhuire, and I get great satisfaction, and I get great healing myself out of the work I do with the gamblers, and that's really what I do.
So I suppose for anybody who doesn't know, Cuan Mhuire is a residential treatment centre. It's a 12-week program. It's the same 12 weeks that I done back in 2005. Except for there's a little twist now, Tim, because you have a program that is designed directly towards gambling. So basically, there's a gambling wing within Cuan Mhuire. When those people who are presenting for treatment walk through that door, what are you looking at? What sort of people are coming in through that door?
Some of the finest people I've ever met in my life. But when they come through the door, it can be very daunting for these people.
What's the most daunting part of it, do you think, for people?
I suppose coming in to Cuan Mhuire and going into detox and meeting these people that are in there that they have never met in their lives, and it's a very, very daunting task for someone to come into Cuan Mhuire, because you can be sure once they're coming into Cuan Mhuire there's a lot of trouble outside. It is very, very difficult to get them to kind of settle and calm down and reassure them that there is a way forward. But once, I suppose, once they get into the gambling set up in room 26, there's a very special atmosphere in there, and there would be fellas that would be moving on in the program a bit that would interact with him and try and reassure him. But it can be very challenging to get somebody to
engage fully.
Yeah, or to believe that there's hope. It's funny, at the moment I have a particular gambler in that got served with divorce papers in Cuan Mhuire. So, he shared that at the meeting, and I took him away out of the meeting after and made a cup of coffee and had a chat about, I think those interventions are very, very important, and to reassure him that, that if you get well, the likelihood is that everybody around you will get well. But I love doing that, and it's nothing I say. It's just I give them the space to maybe talk about this, to be able to cry, or to be able to express that hurt and that.
Is it fair to say that a lot of people who walk through the door are broken? Is that it?
Absolutely.
And I suppose I just think back to my time in Cuan Mhuire, and I think back to I suppose that initial resistance, or thinking when you walk through the door maybe you're not as bad as the lad who's laying beside you in the bed and those sort of things. how do people get their heads around that, and how do they then engage in the program? Because that initial, I suppose, if we're going to be realistic about it, like, you want people to engage in treatment. People who are engaging in treatment are engaging for a reason. The majority of them are engaging for the right reasons. They want recovery. They want to mend things, whether that be at home or within their own lives or whatever, relationships or whatever it is. But how many people, let's say, don't get through those initial couple of weeks?
I think, Oisin, that's improving now. I think I remember hearing a statistic one time that 48% of the people that start the program in Cuan Mhuire don't finish it. And I think that's improving. People are, again, it's through the gambling process that I keep mentioning room 26 is a very, very special room where we engage, and the people that are further on in the program really help these guys to stick it out. But, there's an awful lot of people that will go through Cuan Mhuire and hear nothing. And that's the reality of... I heard very little, Oisin, when I done the program. Very little, because I was consumed with what was going on outside, and guilt and all that stuff. And I would say to you that Cuan Mhuire loved me until I was able to love myself. That's what I'm trying to carry on down there. I'm trying to... when somebody comes in for the first time, he'd be in week 2, and he'd come into the gambling room, I would have a fair idea, sitting down looking at this guy through, just sitting in the room, what kind of pain. And normally, I'd always hold him back after the meeting, have a chat with him, ask him, is he okay for cigarettes or stuff like that, because a lot of people that come in there, when I came in there, I had no money, I hadn't been, and people helped me. And I think part of that process, when I ask them, are they okay for everything, like bits and pieces, whatever they need, I think that initial thing helps them to, whether they're okay or not. I think the fact that somebody cares, I think that's a very, very important thing, because I'll never forget coming in there and having nothing and being ashamed to ask people for a fag, or I was really ashamed. So I try and break that with him. My work in there, I take it very personally. I try and reach out and get these people. The only, I suppose, way I can say that what the work I'm doing in there is successful is by my aftercare on a Tuesday night. I had 24 on aftercare last Tuesday night, and that's, the gambling aftercare only started 2.5 years ago, 3, and tis on the up all the time. And so when I'm on that and I'm looking at 24, I'm looking at 24 families. I'm never looking at an individual. So they're a great bunch of people. Great.
You said, it's difficult for people to hear certain things when you go in there. Again, it sort of brings me back to my time in Cuan Mhuire, because when I went in there in my first number of weeks, I do remember one of the nurses saying to me, look, when you're in here, good things will happen to you. I couldn't hear that. I thought that was... let's be blunt about it. I thought it was horseshit. I thought it was bullshit. I thought somebody was telling me lies. I didn't... It was years later when I come back to that comment, thought about it and went, okay, now I can hear it. Now I know what you're talking about. So when you say people, hearing stuff, is that what you mean? Is it?
Yeah, they don't believe it. And again, I can identify with that experience. Everything I had in there was total bullshit. I was 53 when I got into Culmer. I worked hard, I'd lost my wife and kids and, my home. I was homeless. Jesus, there was no way out. Like, how am I going to start again? How am I going to, and I was a great worker. Like, I worked really hard, earned great money. I had my own company and, all that stuff. But, when I look back at it, I think, I'm a great man. Because I wanted out. I was brought into Culmer. I didn't want to go in there. I had no appointment.
How did you end up in there? So how did you go from somebody who was running their own business, I presume a bit like a lot of us, ducking and diving to try and cover up and all of those sort of things, and the lies and the deceit and all that. What was that moment where you went, right, couldn't work for me?
It didn't happen that way. I was picked up and I was brought to Culmer. I didn't know where I was going. And I was dropped outside reception, and the man that dropped me at reception, I thought he was parking the car. He drove off and he left me there. And I suppose I had no money, I had nothing. And a lady came out of the reception, and she said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I haven't a clue." And she said, "Are you coming in here?" I said, "I don't know." She took me in and bought me a cup of coffee. And I suppose, I was full of... They took me in Culmer that night. I'd go up to the nurse's station, and the nurse actually said, "We can't take you because there's people, there's a queue to come in here." And I said, "Okay." And, I'm telling the truth here, I didn't care. And so I said, "Okay." So I was walking down the corridor. I had nowhere to go, absolutely nowhere to go. And the nurse followed me down and she said, "Where are you going?" And I said, "I don't know." And she said, "Come back in again, I'll make a phone call." And they said I could stay there till the morning, but I'd have to go in the morning. And I said, "Okay." At that stage, I would have agreed to anything. So, yeah, they told me then I could stay. I had no money, I paid no rent. The truth be known, I wanted out. I didn't want to be in Culmer. I wanted out. I had enough. So I couldn't see a way out of any description. I was full of self-pity. I was full of all this regret and poor me's and all that stuff. But like I said earlier, they loved me until I was able to love myself. But just on that, Oisin, I want to talk about that. I went through that program and I heard nothing. I absolutely heard nothing from week 2 up to week 12. It was an intervention from a priest that was there, Lord Tuerson, named Father Dominic, that he told me, in week 12 that I was a very sick man and I needed an awful lot of help. And I looked at him and I said, "Why, I'm after doing the program." And I felt that I was after doing it because I was at every meeting. I done what I was supposed to do.
You stamped the card.
Sorry?
You stamped the card.
Yeah. So I'm going to London now Saturday, and I have a very good job in London. I'm going to save X amount a week, go to meetings and I'll be okay. And Father Dominic said, the answer to your problem, he said, is not in London, Kerry or Dublin. He said, the problem is you, Tim. And he said, the pain you're carrying, he said, is killing you. And he said, if you stay on here in Culmer for a month, he said, I'll help you let go. And I looked at him as a priest and I said, let go of what? And he said, you gotta let go of the pain is killing you. He said, you won't survive. He said, if you go to London Saturday, he said, when you fall, you won't get up again. You're done. Not if, when. And I reluctantly agreed to stay on a month. The money was attractive for us, I wanted to go out and prove myself yet again. So I done a lot of work with Dominic. God, for the next 6 months I was writing. He asked me to write a life story. He asked me to have a look at myself. And it was the first time that I actually looked at Tim Mahoney. It was the first time when I had finished that work that I see who I was. I understood, for the first time in my life, I understood addiction. I understood I was powerless. I didn't understand any of these things. What they were talking about, powerless and unmanageability and all that stuff. And that's really what I really began to feel free, and at the same time I had no contact, with family members, or I had no contact with anybody. That was a good thing in a sense when I look back at it, because I had to look at myself. So I'll be forever grateful for that intervention, because he was the first person that told me that at that time that I was a very sick man. I needed an awful lot of help.
You thought you were sorted?
I thought, and I really, and this is very important to say this, I really believed I was sorted. I really believed, just because I'd done a 12-week programme now, that I can go on and live my life. And I suppose 'tis Father Dominic's message that I'm working on Cuan Mhuire ever since. I have to look at myself. I'm the problem, not my wife, my father, or anybody else. I'm the problem, so I got to deal with me. And Dominic made me one promise, and that he said, Tim, he said, if you get well, everybody around you get well. And that has happened,
And you were able to repair those relationships?
Yes. I'm with my ex-wife and kids every weekend. I stay with him in Dublin. I'm privileged to have them 3 lads in my life, and my ex-wife and I are great pals. We have the height of respect for each other, and I get great support from my family because I am doing the next right thing, and I continuously work on what I have to work on, and
so it's a massively uplifting story. Going from being basically putting a car and left outside Cuan Mhuire to where you are today, and obviously the work that you're doing and helping people. Has there been challenges along the way?
Absolutely.
What sort of challenges?
Absolutely. Early recovery, emotional upheaval, I suppose, being attacked. I struggled with that. Again, I got great advice around that. Someone attacked me, she's angry. She has a right to be angry. So when that happens, you stand there and you take that. That's her anger. She's entitled to that, That was massive. That was massive, because I did get that, I got the brunt of that. And it was probably the first time in my life that I didn't react, that I took on board the hurt and pain that I had caused other people. That was a big stepping stone when that happened. I'm not going to go into how that happened, but when it happened, I believe I got stronger and stronger around where other people were at with all of this.
And more of an understanding, maybe?
Yeah, massive understanding of the hurt and pain that I had caused, And, I continue to work on that, how I carry myself or how I see other people. One of the great things Father Dominic told me that, and I truly believe this, that if I didn't let other people where they're at, I'd never be at peace. And that's something I still practice today. Even doing groups, even, working with people, understanding where they're at, or trying to understand if I'm getting attacked, and I do, that person is not really attacking me. There's something else going on there. And I think that's very, very important to understand where these people are coming, and I don't react to that. And what I do with that is normally bring him for coffee and have a chat with him about what's actually going on.
Because beforehand, we tried to change the people around us.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Because it was always somebody else's fault, or the situation, or the job, or the relationship, or the...
I blamed everybody for my problems. I got a green card in '94 when I was living in London, and I moved to America. I sat in a plane in Heathrow Airport, and I'm going over now to New York, and I'm going to turn over a new leaf, and I now truly believe this. And it happened so many times. These geographicals and running, and one of the greatest things, I suppose, that I lost throughout my gambling career was not being present. Especially with family and with kids, and with I was in Croke Park watching you scoring that goal in 2002, and a big bet and Kerry and Kilkenny that year. It was very unusual for me to have these long-term bets, but I always had them with this, Then you scored the goal and destroyed all that in me. I was in Croke Park so many times throughout my life because I'm very passionate about football, and the sad thing, a lot of the times I wasn't there. I wasn't present. I remember my son being with me one year, big match, Kerry in Dublin, and he asked me before half time we would go home. He knew his dad wasn't there. That's sad. I even get emotional talking about that, but that should have been a special day for him and for me. But he was right, I wasn't there. And I'm sure Oisin is his name as well. He picked up on that. Like, he knew his dad wasn't with him. So there was so much of that.
Is that the thing that people need to understand about gambling? I know we've touched on this stuff before, and I don't want to overdo it, but that it's not the finance. That it's more about the, as you say, that's a very good point about, you can be there, but are you really there? Are you really present with somebody?
It's massive. I always thought, Oisin, that the money was, I really understand today that, there's only a very small part of it. Not being there, being preoccupied. I remember going on holidays at times, and after doing a load of damage, and I carry that on holidays with me. So I'm with my wife and kids out in Spain or wherever we go, and I'm not there. I am totally consumed with how this preoccupation of how I'm going to get this money back, or blah, blah, blah. I genuinely think I was never present. The only thing that I was present, and I was very good at my job. And unfortunately for me, throughout my life, my job became my identity. Jesus, Tim was a great man, and the more praise I got, the more I done in my job. I was very fast at what I did. I craved that approval because I didn't approve of myself, and I didn't know that. I didn't know that I didn't approve of me, so I craved approval from everybody else. It's very unfortunate to have to say that my job became my identity. I was known by how good I was at what I did. And I suppose when that came up in my work that I done on myself, it was very sad around that I didn't know myself. I hadn't a clue who I was, or what I was meant to be. I portrayed this thing, I went to London when I was 16 in 1980. I was only a child. I had no idea how to fit in, or how to, emotionally I didn't know anything about anything. I got a job in the building sites, and they were all hard men in the building sites, and so I had to become a hard man. I was never a hard man. You know, I used to go home in a room in Harlesden, northwest London, and I'd cry myself to sleep because I was homesick. I felt I'd abandoned my mother and stuff like that. So they were kind of the two emotions that I started out my young life in London. And, you know, it is funny, I wasn't allowed into pubs because I was 16, but I was never stopped in the betting shop and no one asked me my age. So that became my escape as a very young man. And that went on all my life. That escape, I didn't know it was an escape. I thought, you know, and I suppose the hard thing about that was, you know, losing my way. I didn't lose all the time, obviously, but losing my wages and being in bed on a Saturday. That time the bookies were only open Saturday, and if White City if I won in the betting shop, I'd go to White City to the dog race, and Saturday night in bed, no money, and everybody else out after women, or, you know, are doing the normal things or whatever those normal things were. I deprived myself of that throughout my life, even relationships. I couldn't hold on to because women only came in my way of what I wanted to do. There was a loneliness around that I can't, to this day, I can't explain. Now, I'm also an alcoholic, but I never had that loneliness around alcohol. The loneliness that gambling brought me, it brought me to a different, you know, it brought me to, I would say to you, I came into Cuan Mhuire at 53 as a 16-year-old. Emotionally, I didn't know. I was a great worker. I had no problem earning money, but it was a sad existence, and I really wanted to stop. I tried, and I did stop a few times. I remember my sister's wedding in '85. I went, you know, and when I thought of that, when I was working on myself, it was a bad thing, really. I stopped gambling and drinking for 3 months, and I worked kind of 7 days a week, and I came back then with a load of money, and I always believed I could stop when I wanted it, you know, and unfortunately I couldn't. It just got, you know.
Have all those lived experiences helped you in the work that you do today, obviously?
Absolutely.
And you're probably able to recognize a lot of things in different people that, you know, obviously went on with you, but what's the biggest difference between the person who walks through the door and the person who's walking back out through the door after 12 weeks? I know not every case is the same, but in general, is there anything you put your finger on that the change?
Yeah, I suppose when somebody walks out after 12 weeks, I would say I have a fair idea where they're at through what I would have heard in the gambling meeting for that 12 weeks. Now, I'm sitting in that gambling meeting, people are telling me lies. I can see it. I can feel it. I can see it as a compulsive gambler myself. We become, I suppose, you know, we understand the feelings. We understand what's going on. I think I do anyway, you know. But I've been wrong many, many times. A fellow going out and I would say, Jesus, no, he didn't, you know, he wasn't, you know, and it surprised me. And so I kind of stopped judging in that sense. But really, I suppose it's the hope that they get in there. Something I really pushed. A lot of people be looking forward to week 12 and finishing and getting out and all that, you know. I still go to meetings today, 9 years down the road, and I probably never stop. No, I'm not obsessed with meetings, or I'm not, you know, I want to live my life.
Yeah.
And I really encourage that. Like, I play golf, you know, I have a great crack. And that's what I try and give them. Like, I'm as mad as a box of frogs, in a sense. You know, I really enjoy life. I've great stuff happening. And I bring that to the room sometimes. We have a great laugh in there sometimes about different things, and because there's an awful lot of pain in there. But what I would have anyone that done the programme, whether they, I would always say that they might have heard something in here, even if they fail this time, it might stand to them maybe down the road or blah, blah, blah. An awful lot of people as well that I find in Cuan Mhuire, they get bailed out, which can be detrimental, that some of these people...
That's actually a good point. It's probably one that we've never actually touched on before, because we have done, you know, we've done the practical stuff where somebody hands over finances and that, but like, it is important to know that, like, one of the things that is not recommended from a family point of view is you know, paying off that person's debt, or as you say, bailing them out in that case. Like, that's not the best way to start off the process.
No, because again, they're not going through the pain themselves. And I've seen it time and time again, you know. And unfortunately, that's, I suppose, a parent, unconditional love for their child. So I do understand why people bail out, you know, but again, when I'm talking to parents, I'm saying, no, absolutely, I understand you love, you know, that unconditional love and so on, but, you know, part and process is going through the pain of what we've done, you know. And that's a big one, like, you know, if we were bailed out, you know, I wasn't bailed out, I can assure you, you know. I had to face it. Again, it's something that I really encourage in there, that we go to MABs, we go to... There's fantastic people.
Tim, look, I wasn't expecting us to go maybe as deep as we went, but like that's going to make such a difference. Like, I get so much out of it, even just sitting here, and I just want to thank you for your honesty, for being here. I know we might have been... You said you were nervous coming into it, but the Kerry boys can always talk. But look at it, you know, it was an eye opener, and it's an education, and I want to thank you for that. Anybody who is affected by anything we've talked about, on the video you'll see attached details for GamblingCare.ie. Whether it be an affected other, whether it be somebody who is in addiction, struggling with addiction, ring the number. It's free, it's available right now, and do it, because it will change your life forever. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Oisin.
I'm an All-Ireland winning footballer for Tyrone.
I've won 8 with Kilkenny.
I have 6 All-Ireland clubs.
I'm a double All-Star.
Me too.
I'm a gambling addict.
I'm a gambling addict.
Me too.
If you take 2 things from this ad,
know that you are not alone.
And there is help for you.